Hey there, how there, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Diving. Welcoming to yet another NBA Cutter Top 10 video. And of course, sponsoring by the jersey of one Kyle Lowry, who will have his number 7 retired by the Raptors. We're going to be looking at the top 10 win-win trades in NBA history. That's basically that both sides went out. I know you'll be probably saying Kawhi for DeMar DeRozan for the Raptors because, Kawhi helped the Raptors win the title in 2019, and he's coming back to the Raptors in 2026. But unfortunately, it wasn't really because DeMar DeRozan was not really that great with San Antonio. So basically, both sides have to win the deal. It's not lopsided trades. It's not good trades or bad trades. It's that both sides got what they want and both sides can feel happy about their trade. All right. First off, number 10 is the Bill Cartwright Charles Oakley trade, Chicago, New York. So once upon a time, Charles Oakley was a member of the Chicago Bulls coming from Virginia Union. Bill Cartwright came from, can't remember, I would say St. John's, but yeah, he was a New York Knicks center icon. Of course, once one Patrick Ewing came into play, the Knicks decided to get rid of Cartwright, trading him to the Bulls for Charles Oakley. Charles Oakley was a fantastic rebounder. He was rugged. He was one of the most monstrative players around, helping the Knicks become a perennial contender, and he was even monstrative with the Raptors once upon a time. However, the Bulls kind of went out on this in a sense because Bill Cartwright was the center when the Bulls won the three-peat. He was the main center for the first three-peat. The second three-peat was Luke Longley / Bill Wennington. But whatever. Can't hurt that. No, you can't. Number 9 is the Jimmy Butler Zach LaVine trade. So this was a big move and all that. Zach LaVine or LaVine, whatever you want to call it, had two close calls in the slam dunk competition, including one in 2016 when the Raptors got to host the All-Star game. But yeah, Zach LaVine, great job in the slam dunk competition. Minnesota then traded him in Chicago to get Jimmy Butler. Butler was a pretty good player for the Bulls and all that. So Minnesota got Butler and the 16th pick in the 2017 draft for Zach LaVine, Chris Dunn, and the number 7 pick, which was Lauri Markkanen, who was okay in a sense. Chicago worked out. Zach LaVine was big and all that. The Bulls got younger and gained some real upside. And the Timberwolves got the star they wanted in the short term in Jimmy Butler. Butler would actually do much better for Miami in 2023, getting them to the NBA Finals despite being an 8 seed. So that was the big move. Number 8 is the Glenn Rice Alonzo Mourning trade, Hornets and Heat. So the Hornets were a young team, and Alonzo Mourning was a great center for them. I believe he was, the third draft pick in Hornets history? But yeah, he was a top 3 pick for the Hornets in 1991 out of Georgetown. And he's the guy who sunk the Boston Celtics in the 93 playoffs with that buzzer beater to get the Hornets to the second round against the Knicks, which was a shock in itself because Charlotte wasn't really a playoff team. Unfortunately, that would be the last playoff series for Reggie Lewis for Boston, number 35. He died in an off-season thing at Brandeis. Nevertheless, they traded him to the Miami Heat alongside Pete Myers, who would soon stay with Chicago in 94, and LaRon Ellis. Charlotte got Glenn Rice, a great talented shooter from the University of Michigan, who was the hero in 1989 when Michigan won their first NCAA title. Let's not forget they're the current champs of 2026. Charlotte also got Matt Geiger, Khalid Reeds in the first-round pick. Not bad for all that. Mourning was the defensive foundation for Miami's identity in the mid-90s. Glenn Rice was an elite scorer in Charlotte and a few other teams involved. But yeah, it was just amazing. Number 7 is Paul George and Victor Oladipo, the big Oklahoma City, Indiana trade. So Paul George was this great guy from Fresno State. He had a legit upside to him, but unfortunately during a 2014 USA scrimmage, he would break his leg in such a dismal way. So George improved himself with Indiana, but then they made a move. Oklahoma City picked up Paul George, and Indiana took Victor Oladipo, who ironically was an Indiana guy. He played for the University of Indiana, and then Demontres Sabonis, who was okay too. Yeah, George had a great legit co-star to Russell Westbrook, of course, once Durant left for Golden State with the old saying, if you can't beat them, join them. And it was a massive asset. Indiana saw Oladipo go all NBA and Sabonis become a big boy too. I think he went to Sacramento, and I think he's in one of those trades, wasn't he? Oh yeah, he'll be in another trade later. Number 6 is the Carmelo Anthony Knicks Nuggets deal. So Carmelo Anthony was one of the stars of the 2003 NBA draft, one of the people say one of the greatest of all time, if not for 1996. Melo was picked from the University of Syracuse. He was one and done. He only played 1 year for the University of Syracuse, led them to the national title, and then decided to go to the NBA. Denver took him third overall, if memory serves me right, because I know LeBron went number 1, and then Darko Milicic went number 2 to the Pistons. But the joke was on every anti-Milicic fan. He won an NBA title. Anyway, Melo went third to the Nuggets, and he was pretty good for Denver. But then the Knicks figured they needed somebody, so they picked up Carmelo Anthony and former NBA Finals MVP with the Detroit Pistons in 2004, Chauncey Billups, who lots of teams gave up on, including the Raptors. Denver took Daniel Gagliardi, Wilson Chandler, Ray Felton, Tim Moskoff, draft picks, and swap rights. Anyway, the Knicks got Carmelo Anthony, who became a Knicks icon. I still kind of call him a Denver Nugget icon, too. And Denver actually got quality starters, draft flexibility, and, Denver wasn't half bad and all that. So it worked out for the Knicks. Of course, he didn't lead them to the title. Number 5 is Domantas Sabonis again in one of these trades for Tyrese Halliburton. So Indiana, after a while, decided to trade Sabonis, Justin Holiday, Jeremy Lamb, and a second-round pick to Sacramento for the rights to Tyrese Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and Tristan Thompson. Sacramento had Buddy Hield, great player from Oklahoma, who was a star player and all that. I always thought he would be great in Sacramento and all that. Indiana also took Tristan Thompson, former Canadian icon from the University of Texas, and Tyrese Halliburton, who was kind of this unknown guy in a sense when he played for Sacramento. I didn't even know he played for Sacramento until the whole WinWIn trades thing happened. But yeah, Sabonis is in this for the second time in this thing. So yeah, Sacramento paired Sabonis up with Darren Fox, and they became a coherent offensive team that broke a 20-year playoff drought in Sacramento, the winning Sacramento thing. And Indiana got Halliburton as their point guard. Unfortunately, he injured himself in Game 7 of the NBA Finals in 2025 with the ACL tear that shocked a lot of people. Number 4 is a draft day trade of epic proportions. It's Vince Carter for Antoine Jamison. So the Raptors and the Warriors made moves in 1998, picking these players up. The Raptors were first on the clock and knew they had to get Anton Jamison, who was this great North Carolina player and all that. And then Golden State picked up another North Carolina guy, Vince Carter. Yeah, he played for UNC and he was an icon and all that. Of course, everyone knows about Vince Carter when he wanted he got his degree from the University of North Carolina. It was the same day as Game 7 of the playoff series against the Sixers in 2001, in which he made the shot that bounced up on the rim but failed, unlike one Quiet Leonard in 2019. But yeah, it was funny because the number 4 and number 5 picks were actually swapped for each other. So Jamison and Carter, who were North Carolina teammates, were swapped for each other, and it was kind of funny. But the trade worked out. Golden State got Antoine Jamison, who proved to everyone he was a good player, good shooting guard. And then the Raptors, because Vince Carter, with his drive, determination, his dunks, and especially the 2000 All-Star game in Oakland, ironically enough, because, in Golden State's arena and all that. But yeah, Vince Carter was great for the Raptors, but then basically he whined his way out of Toronto and then went to New Jersey and then to Dallas and Memphis and a few other teams in Atlanta. But his numbers retired as a Raptor, so it worked out. It all worked out. Number 3 is the Shaq deal from the Lakers to the Heat for Lamar Odom. So Shaq was big. LA spent a lot to get him out of free agency from the Orlando Magic in 1996. They needed a good center. Vlade Divac wasn't doing the job, and Vlade was traded to Charlotte for the rights to Kobe Bryant. Shaq became the big centerpiece and all that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar once was. He led them to a three-peat, 2000, 2001, 2002. And then, of course, Kobe and Shaq had problems off the court, mostly due to Kobe's Colorado trial, which the defendant didn't want to testify on. That basically is a admission of guilt. Maybe she just wanted Kobe's money. Anyway, Shaq and Kobe couldn't agree on much after the 2004 NBA Finals, which they shockingly lost to Detroit. Jerry West, the general manager, wasn't sure what to do. He had a chance to trade Kobe Bryant to the crosstown Clippers, but then he decided to trade Shaq to Miami. So Miami got Shaq, and the Lakers got Lamar Odom, Caron Butler, Brian Grant, and draft picks. I don't think Lamar Odom was that great of an LA um, Laker to me. Well, Shaq, a couple years later, bit Kobe when he won the NBA title in 2006 against the Dallas Mavericks. However, the Lakers did use Odom as a key piece of the title teams for Kobe in 2009 and 2010, winning the title. But Lamar Odom had some problems. Well, he was from Rhode Island, Shaq from LSU, if you must know. But yeah, that was a big deal because the Lakers did give Lamar Odom a pair of rings. Shaq won one with Miami. Number two is the craziest win-win trade in history: the Lakers and the Grizzlies. Okay, so LA picked up Pau Gasol for the Memphis Grizzlies. Everyone forgets that Pau Gasol was actually once a Vancouver Grizzly before they moved to Memphis, and then he was a great player from Memphis. Memphis picked up Kwame Brown, who was a massive flameout. Remember, he was the number one draft pick by the Washington Wizards, and Michael Jordan thought he would be good, but Kwame Brown was basically a dickwad. Travarius Kritzinen, who unfortunately got a massive suspension while playing for Washington as part of a guns thing with Gilbert Arenas. Aaron McKee, draft picks, and the rights to some guy by the name of Marc Gasol. That's right. The Lakers traded one brother for another. Can you imagine? I don't think it ever happened to the Sutter brothers in the NHL. But yeah, Pau Gasol was traded from one team to another, from the Grizzlies to the Lakers, and Marc Gasol was traded from the Lakers to the Grizzlies. Memphis was criticized for getting rid of Pau Gasol, who kind of was the only thing in Memphis going for them. But Pau became a good front court partner for Kobe Bryant and had 2 rings to his name. Memphis was criticized, but Marc Gasol, once he came over from Spain to the NBA, he actually worked with the defense partners, even more so than Powell. He was even Defensive Player of the Year in 2011 when the Memphis Grizzlies shocked the Spurs in the first round of the playoffs as an 8 seed. It worked out, and even more so, Marc Gasol worked out for the Raptors. The Raptors got Marc Gasol at the 2019 trade deadline for Jonas Valanciunas, who was this number 5 pick that I criticized coming out of 2011. A Lithuanian is like, who the fuck is him? I wanted, what is that guy from UConn? I wanted Kemba Walker on the Raptors. Didn't work out. But Valanciunas was okay, and then got traded to Memphis for Pau Gasol. Valanciunas did some decency in Memphis, but not good enough to make it a win-win trade. And finally, the number 1 pick for win-win trades is the Paul George, Shea Gilgeous-Alexander trade. The Clippers got Paul George from Oklahoma City. Remember, I had him with the trade from Indiana to Oklahoma City, and now Oklahoma City traded Paul George to the Clippers in exchange for Daniel Gallardi, 5 first-round picks, 2 pick swaps, and this guy from Hamilton, Ontario by the name of Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, SGA, from Kentucky. So anyway, Oklahoma City received the foundation for one of the biggest rebuilds in history. They had a stockpile of picks, like 20 of them, I think, at one time, and they had SGA helping out. At one time, they even had Shea's cousin, Nikolai Alexander Walker. The Clippers paid a massive price, but they got Paul George, and because they got Paul George, the Clippers picked up Kawhi Leonard in free agency from the Raptors in 2019. Of course, everyone thought Kawhi was going to re-sign with the Raptors, but it didn't work out so well. I mean, it was a good deal and all that. I wish Kawhi stayed in Toronto. Everyone says Kawhi's a top 5 Raptor. But the dude only played one freaking year with the Raptors. Now that he's going to be playing maybe 1 or 2 more years with the Raptors because we picked him up in free agency, maybe, just maybe, he's a top 5 Raptor. I don't know. Vince Carter's always going to be home sweet home to me. You got Kyle Lowry, you got DeMar DeRozan, you got, oh, who else was good? You even have maybe Charles Oakley and Alvin Robertson. But yeah, Kawhi will have to prove himself to be top 5 in my book. He will. Anyhow, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.